The glass door of Griffey's Burgers gave a soft ting as the young woman pushed it open. A wave of warm air rolled out and brushed her cold face like a fragile embrace in the middle of a grey autumn afternoon. Lena Mitchell clutched a pale yellow folder to her chest and paused right at the entrance, as if weighing whether to step inside or simply turn around and leave. Her silver-grey hoodie concealed most of her thin face. Her sneakers, once white, were now yellowed, their soles chipped as if they'd walked thousands of nameless miles. She didn't smile. She just stood there, her eyes quietly scanning each table, each voice, each person who passed her by without truly seeing her. Behind the counter, 3 teenage employees stopped what they were doing at the sound of the bell. The tallest Mason jerked his chin toward the door and nudged the girl beside him with his elbow, speaking low but loud enough for Lena to hear. "Bet $10 she's here for a free meal." Jade, with her blue-dyed hair, chewing gum, clearly amused, snorted, or applying to be the janitor. Bathrooms have been nasty lately. The third one, Tyler, leaning against the register, muttered under his breath. Wouldn't be surprised if she fished those clothes out of a dumpster. Their laughter followed not the hearty kind, but sharp, whispered sneers, like shards of broken glass. Lena heard it all. Her cheeks flushed, but she lifted her head and walked toward the counter. Her eyes moved to the overhead menu, not because she was hungry, but because she didn't want to meet the gaze of anyone looking at her like she was a stain in a spotless room. At the far end of the restaurant, an older man sat alone with a cup of coffee. A grey hoodie shadowed his face, glasses perched on his nose, a phone in his hand as if reading the news. But his eyes, hidden behind thin lenses, watched closely. Every look, every whisper, every silence. He was Mr. Griffin, the owner of Griffey's Burgers, known for dropping in unannounced to check on his locations. But today, he wasn't just here for food quality. Today, he was here to observe people. Mason straightened, his face adopting a showroom smile. "Welcome to Griffey's," he chimed in a mocking tone. "How can I help you?" She hesitated, then quietly replied, "I'm here to see the manager. Tracy scheduled a meeting with me at 2. The 3 employees froze. Tyler clicked his tongue. A meeting with Tracy. What for Lena's hand gently tightened around the edge of her folder. "It's about a job. She said she'd be expecting me." Mason checked his watch. "It's only 1:50. Tracy's on a call. You can sit for now. We'll let her know later." Jade pretended to scribble something, then whispered, "Let's see how long she's willing to wait." Lena nodded and walked to an empty table by the window. Behind her, soft giggles, whispered comments, unhidden. Bet she printed that resume at a public library. Probably doesn't have a permanent address. Customers won't want to eat somewhere that has homeless people walking in. Mr. Griffin set his cup down. A quiet clink, not loud, but enough to mark the moment his memory started recording. Lena sat down and gently laid her folder on the table, like someone trying not to break the fragile dream hidden within those sheets. She didn't react, didn't cry, didn't leave. She just sat, looking out the window, where autumn sunlight softly lit up a face far older than her years. Laughter still echoed from the counter, but Mr. Griffin no longer heard it clearly. What he felt most was the silence surrounding Lena, a silence that stung. Mason turned back to the counter, still wearing his half-smile. He grabbed a small plastic cup, intentionally filled it with too much ice, and topped it with tap water. His footsteps, heavy and dramatic, marched toward Lena's table like a lead actor in a bad play. "While you wait, care to order something?" he said with sarcastic cheer, assuming, of course, you can afford it. He glanced at Jade and Tyler, prompting quiet snickers behind sleeves. Lena looked up, not with anger, not with pain, just calm, just water. She replied softly, "Thank you." "Oh, yes, the house special. Tap water with ultra-cold ice." Mason bowed theatrically, then placed the cup down. Too hard. A splash leapt over the rim, landing squarely on Lena's folder. "Oops," Mason muttered flatly. "Guess my hand slipped." Lena hurriedly pulled the folder from the puddle, blotting at the drops with a napkin. The pages may be recommendation letters, maybe certificates were the results of effort she had carefully built up. "It's all right," she said, voice still gentle, but her hand was trembling. Across the restaurant, a young boy eating with his mother knocked over a container of fries. He started to whimper, while his mother, holding a smaller child and fumbling for napkins, was visibly flustered. No one moved. No employee offered help. Tyler just watched, smirking. But Lena didn't hesitate. She got up, walked to the child, and crouched to pick up each fry, placing them neatly on a napkin. No grimace, no complaint. "It's okay, little one." She smiled at the boy, then looked up at his mother. "Would you like me to ask the kitchen for a replacement? I can check for you." The mother blinked, surprised. Her eyes were grateful, but also hesitant. "No, thank you. You're very kind." Lena simply shook her head. "He's hungry and tired." "I get it." She walked back to her table, as if the kindness she offered was just normal life. But behind the counter, the sneers rose again. "See," Tyler smirked, "already cleaning floors. No need to post the janitor job now. She probably thinks that'll impress Tracy." Jade added, "Poor thing, trying to make a statement by wiping tables." Their laughter rang louder now. Some nearby customers turned to look, a few with frowns, but still no one said a word. Silence. Again, Mr. Griffin, in his corner, gripped his now cold coffee cup tighter. His gaze was no longer passive, it was sharp. He looked at Lena, not with pity, but respect. A young woman being treated like garbage, yet still choosing to be kind. And he looked at the three employees, as if staring into a shattered mirror, reflecting a culture cracking from within. Lena returned to her seat, a damp patch on her sleeve, hair brushing the table edge. She opened her folder, trying to dry the pages with her breath and napkins. No one offered to help. No one asked if she was okay. Only the afternoon sun quietly lit the corner of a smudged certificate, her name still clear, Lena Mitchell. 15 minutes passed. Lena remained by the window, hands clasped, occasionally glancing at the clock. Outside, the last red leaves of the season spun across the pavement, searching for a place to land just like her. In his corner, Mr. Griffin had long since set his coffee down. His eyes hadn't left Lena's table nor missed a single move behind the counter. He unlocked his phone and opened his notes app. His fingers typed short, precise lines. Then he looked up again. Lena was gently blotting water from what might have been a reference letter, one corner torn. She smoothed it with her fingers, exhaling softly like someone trying to hold together what had already cracked. Behind the counter, Jade scrolled her phone. Mason leaned back, arms crossed, yawning without covering his mouth. Tyler absent-mindedly wiped down the drink station, each stroke more aggressive than necessary. Lena stood and approached the counter once more. "Excuse me," she said politely to Jade. "I don't mean to bother, but it's after 2 now. I had a meeting scheduled with Tracy at 2 o'clock. Has she been informed that I'm here?" Jade looked up, her eyebrows raised like she'd just been asked to climb a mountain. "Yeah, well, I said I'd tell her when I had a moment. She's busy with more important things." Mason cut in. "Still sitting here? Huh. Guess you don't have anywhere else to go." He chuckled as if joking, but his eyes were cold. Lena's voice stayed calm, though her fingers clenched slightly at her sleeve. "I understand she's busy, but Tracy herself called me yesterday to confirm the time, and I took 2 buses to get here. That's only important to you." Tyler called from the drink station, to someone in charge. No one really cares. The air around the counter fell still. A few waiting customers exchanged awkward glances. A woman pulled her child from the line and moved to another table. But like before, no one spoke up. Lena walked back to her table. Her shoulders drooped slightly, but her chin remained high. She pulled out a small notebook and pen and began writing slowly, steadily, like she was recording everything, or just holding herself together with each line. Behind the counter, Tyler smirked. "Look at her, just like a stray dog that got kicked out of the bus stop." Jade let out a laugh, probably writing in her diary. "Got rejected again like always." Mason whispered just loud enough for those nearby to hear. "Maybe we should just tell her outright we're not hiring janitors. Save everyone the trouble." They kept laughing, quietly, rhythmically, painfully. Mr. Griffin closed his eyes for a moment. The laughter still buzzed in his ears, but his mind drifted to a memory, another restaurant, another time when he almost lost a loyal customer because an employee had acted the exact same way. He opened his eyes and typed another note into his phone. 2:17 p.m. Appointment intentionally delayed. Mocking continues. None of the 3 intervened. At the window table, Lena was just closing her notebook when a little girl, no more than 5, timidly walked over, holding something folded from a napkin. She extended it with a shy voice. "This is for you, because you're nice." Lena's eyes widened, then softened, like sunlight falling onto a frozen lake. "Thank you." "Sweetheart," she said, voice catching. "It's beautiful." The little girl ran back to her table. Her mother offered Lena an apologetic smile and mouthed, "Thank you." Lena stared at the small gift, a crumpled paper flower, unevenly folded, but she held it like it was an orchid flown in from Japan. And from his corner, Mr. Griffin smiled, truly smiled for the first time that day. Suddenly, the door behind the counter creaked open. A woman in her 40s with neatly tied brown hair and a simple blue shirt stepped out. Tracy, the branch manager, had finally emerged. The person Lena had been silently waiting for over 30 minutes. Tracy's gaze swept across the restaurant quickly. She spotted Lena, seated properly at the window table, her folder resting on her lap, a tiny paper flower clipped to the corner. She also noticed the uneasy expressions on the few remaining customers, and more notably, the subtle panic blooming on the faces of the 3 employees behind the counter. Lena Mitchell. Tracy called out, her voice clear, almost like calling an old friend. Lena startled. She jumped up, smoothed her shirt, and clutched her folder. Yes, that's me. And then something happened. Something no one in that restaurant, especially the 3 teens behind the counter, could have seen coming. Tracy walked briskly toward Lena, her face lighting up as if seeing family after years apart. Without hesitation, she opened her arms and pulled Lena into a warm embrace right there, in front of everyone. "Oh my goodness, it's so great to finally meet you. I've been really looking forward to this after reading your file." Mason's eyes bulged. Tyler's jaw dropped. Jade nearly dropped her phone. Lena stood stiffly, stunned. Never had she imagined being welcomed like this, especially not in a place where, just minutes ago, she had been treated like someone not even worth acknowledging. "I'm so sorry for keeping you waiting," Tracy said, still holding Lena's shoulder, her voice genuine. "My online meeting ran long, and, apparently, someone forgot to tell me you had arrived." Her voice wasn't loud, but it didn't need to be. The implication was sharp. Behind the counter, all 3 employees dropped their gaze like students caught cheating. Mr. Griffin remained still in his corner, but his eyes tracked every twitch of every face. "It's all right," Lena said quickly. "I understand it gets busy." Tracy smiled, then gestured toward the quieter end of the restaurant. "I've already set up a table for the interview back there. Shall we?" "Yes, of course." Lena nodded, following Tracy, and for the first time since she stepped into Griffey's Burgers, she didn't walk alone. Back at the counter, Jade whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. "She's..." The interviewee, Mason, stared at Tracy, then at Lena, face pale. "No way. That girl, she's the candidate, not just a candidate," Tyler added, his voice almost breaking. "Tracy said she read her application and was waiting to meet her." All 3 of them turned almost in sync toward a man now rising from the far corner of the restaurant. And at that moment, time seemed to freeze. Mr. Griffin, the man they'd assumed was a quiet, grumpy customer, was now walking slowly toward them, leaving behind his cold coffee, his dark corner, carrying a look that made them forget how to breathe. His rubber-soled shoes tapped gently against the tiled floor as he made his way to the counter. He still wore his grey hoodie like any other customer. But the moment Tracy turned and said, "Thank you for waiting," Mr. Griffin. It hit them like a lightning bolt. Mason stammered. Who is he? Is that the owner? Jade whispered, voice cracking like a window under pressure. Tyler instinctively took a step back, bumping into the soda machine behind him as if needing it to stay upright. Mr. Griffin said nothing at first. He walked to the counter and placed his empty cup down. "May I get a coffee refill?" he asked calmly, without looking directly at anyone. Mason, still recovering, mumbled, There's a self-serve station over Mr. Griffin's voice dropped. Firmer now. "I think this request should be handled personally." They froze. Then Mr. Griffin slowly pulled down his hood. Salt and pepper hair, a face seen in countless business articles and leadership conferences. The crow's feet around his eyes only intensified his calm, but beneath it was a storm waiting to break. From the interview table, Tracy had just seated Lena when she immediately stood again, waving with unmistakable respect. "Mr. Griffin, perfect timing. I was just telling Lena about the proposed management position at our downtown location." Mr. Griffin didn't reply right away. He looked at Tracy, then turned back to face Mason, Tyler, and Jade, whose faces were now pale and sweating. "Good afternoon," he said slowly. "Seems I received quite the special service today." No one answered. Shoulders sank. "Do you know who I am?" he asked. Yes, sir," Mason croaked. "And the young woman you mocked, laughed at, deliberately spilled water on, insulted, and tried to publicly humiliate," he continued, his words falling like heavy stones into a still river. "That's Lena Mitchell." He paused. "The very candidate I personally selected as our top choice for the new management position at Griffey's Burgers. Her application is among the strongest I've seen, not just for her credentials, but for her character." No one lifted their head. The entire restaurant was silent. A few customers quietly began filming as if witnessing a courtroom scene where justice was delivered not from a judge's bench, but from a man's unwavering presence. Tracy looked at him, confused. "You came early to observe." He nodded. "I arrived an hour before the meeting, not to judge Lena. Her resume speaks for itself. I came to see how this team treats a stranger, someone without a title, without a badge, without a name. Because I believe true character is revealed not in how you treat someone with power, but how you treat someone you think has none." He turned toward Lena, still seated, wide-eyed, not having said a word throughout. His eyes softened, like a father looking at a daughter who had weathered a storm alone. "You passed the hardest test without even knowing you were being watched. You held on to kindness, patience, and dignity even as others tried to take them from you." Then he looked back at the three employees. His face wasn't cold anymore. It was disappointed. "As for the three of you, you failed, not just in behavior, but in conscience. Who did you think she was? A homeless girl, a nobody here for water, and so you thought you had the right to demean her? No, sir. We," Tyler started. No need to explain. Mr. Griffin cut him off. Actions speak louder than any excuse. Silence. The only sounds were the hum of the AC and the pounding of hearts. Mason's face was ghost white. Tyler's head hung low. Jade covered her mouth, mascara streaks trailing down her cheeks. Mr. Griffin stepped forward. This isn't the first time I've seen employees behave unprofessionally, he said, not loudly, but with a voice that struck every table in the room. But it is the first time I've seen a team gang up on a person not because she did anything wrong, but because you thought she didn't matter. He paused, letting the weight of his words sink in. And that is what angers me most. Mason stuttered, his voice cracked. We didn't know who she was. That's the point, Mr. Griffin's voice rose, sharp as a blade. You didn't know her, so you assumed she wasn't worth respecting. He pulled his phone from his pocket. I recorded some of your comments. Want me to read them out loud? All three shook their heads quickly, as if hearing their own words again would shatter them. But Mr. Griffin read anyway, steady, clear, like delivering a closing statement. Check out the door. $10 says she's here to ask for free food. Maybe she found those clothes in the dumpster out back. Did you see her face like a kicked puppy? People like that always bring down the vibe of a place. Should we start charging for water now? This isn't a charity. He looked each of them in the eye. You didn't just insult a job applicant. You insulted a human being. He turned to Tracy, who stood beside Lena, her face pale. Tracy, the fault isn't entirely yours. You can't be everywhere at once. But leadership isn't just about managing shifts. It's about ensuring this place remains humane. Tracy nodded, lips trembling. I understand, and I'm so sorry. I had no idea. No one ever does. Mr. Griffin said gently, because cruelty here didn't come with yelling or hitting. It came through words, through stares, through silence. And it's more dangerous when no one steps in to stop it. Lena remained silent. She didn't speak, but her eyes were wet. The eyes of someone used to enduring, used to being judged, but never willing to give up her dignity. Then a woman near the window, a customer, suddenly spoke. I recorded the whole thing. These kids, they mocked her, even when she was helping a mother with her children. An elderly man at a nearby table nodded. I've been sitting here for nearly 20 minutes, listening to them mock her clothes, the way she spoke. I felt ashamed on their behalf. A little girl, no more than 10, whispered to her mother, then turned toward the room. She was the only one who bent down to help that baby pick up the fries. The words were soft, but clear, and suddenly, the entire restaurant seemed to awaken. Mr. Griffin raised his hand, signaling for silence once more. Thank you, all of you, he said. But unfortunately, most only spoke up after I revealed myself. When you thought you were witnessing something important. But the truly important moment had already happened. He pointed to Lena, when a poor girl whose name no one knew was mocked by 3 employees, was dismissed, had water spilled on her resume, and still chose to help others, still stayed, still didn't leave. Mr. Griffin stepped back slightly, his gaze sweeping across the room as though measuring the air itself. Faces watched him intently, breath held, waiting. No one dared to take another bite of their burger. No one touched their phone. No one looked away from the man who was about to make a decision that could change not only the fate of the three standing before him, but maybe the soul of this entire restaurant. He drew in a deep breath, fingers interlaced in front of him. His eyes landed on Mason, Tyler, and Jade one by one. Mason Rodriguez, Tyler Benson. His voice rang out, clear and steady. Your employment is terminated, effective immediately. The words weren't loud, but they echoed like thunder. Mason staggered, face pale as paper. You're firing me. Over just a few jokes, he stammered, his voice cracking with shock and despair. Just a few jokes, Mr. Griffin repeated, his gaze darkening like a sky before the storm. You publicly humiliated someone seeking a better life, made customers uncomfortable, and forced me to rise from my table, something I haven't done in over 30 years of leadership. He pulled out his phone, opening a list. Do you remember saying this? Bet she lives in her car. This isn't a charity. We should charge for water now. That wasn't a slip of the tongue, it was sustained mockery. That wasn't immaturity, it was a lack of basic ethics. Tyler stood frozen. But I need this job, for tuition, for rent. I won't make it without it. Mr. Griffin wasn't cruel, but he did not waver. Tyler, you should have thought about that before choosing to join in, before becoming complicit in someone else's humiliation. He turned to Tracy. I want their badges and uniforms collected now. They can receive their final checks this Friday. Tracy nodded. Yes, sir. The two young men removed their name tags quietly. Mason's hands trembled. Tyler glanced up at Lena for the first time, and in his eyes there was remorse. Then Mr. Griffin turned to Jade. Jade Williams. She didn't lift her head. Her mascara streaked down both cheeks. She wrung her hands, standing a few inches apart from the other two, like she wanted to separate herself from their guilt. You laughed too. You mocked her, but you didn't deflect. You didn't blame anyone else. He paused. I want to hear it from you. What do you think about what just happened? Jade looked up. For the first time, her eyes held no defiance, only a young woman, messy, broken. I don't know why I said those things. Honestly, I didn't think. The words just came out, and everyone else was laughing, so I... Her voice cracked. Then she whispered, barely above a breath, I'm sorry. I don't want to be that person, not who I was today. Lena remained seated, looking at Jade for a long time. Then, gently, she spoke. I've made mistakes. I've said things I regretted. The only thing that helped me move forward was facing them fully. Mr. Griffin nodded slowly. That's why I'm giving you a chance. A chance Mason and Tyler will not have. All three looked up at once. Jade Williams, he continued, I'm assigning you to the service retraining program at our West Side branch, the very location where Lena once worked. For the next 2 weeks, Before Lena officially begins her role as manager, she'll be supervising your progress directly. Jade's mouth fell open. You mean I have to work under her? The girl Yes. He nodded. You will clean restrooms, mop floors, wipe tables starting from the bottom. If, after 3 months, you show genuine change, I'll reconsider your standing. He paused. But if there's even one more complaint, you're done. Jade stood silent, then nodded firmer than she expected. I'll do it. I want to change, Mason blurted. Seriously, you're gonna scrub floors for the girl who came in here begging for water? Jade turned to him, her voice icy calm. She never begged for anything. And me, I'm asking for a chance not to stay the terrible person I've been. Mason said nothing more. Tyler quietly turned and walked toward the door. His steps slowed with each soft chime of the bell overhead. Mr. Griffin didn't watch them leave. He only turned back to Lena, who still hadn't cried, who still sat upright, holding her folder, still slightly damp at the edges. When the door chimed one last time behind Mason and Tyler, the air inside Griffey's Burgers seemed to settle into a deeper rhythm. No more cruel laughter, no more sneering glances, only the silence of those who had witnessed something that would stay with them forever. Mr. Griffin took a deep breath, turning again to Lena, who hadn't moved. Her hands rested gently atop her folder. Now then. His voice softened, full of warmth. Let's return to the real reason you came here today. Tracy, who had remained beside Lena throughout, nodded. She gently pulled out a chair, encouraging Lena to sit. Then she took a seat across from her like the storm had passed, and it was time to build something real from the foundation. Mr. Griffin sat beside Tracy and pulled a thick, cream-colored envelope from his coat. He placed it on the table and slid it toward Lena. This is the management contract for the new downtown location, but I've included a few additions that aren't in the standard offer. Lena hesitated, then carefully opened the envelope and pulled out the documents. She flipped to the first page and her eyes widened. This salary, is this a mistake? No, Mr. Griffin smiled. You read it right. I raised your starting pay by 20% above the base rate for managers. There's also a performance bonus if customer satisfaction remains over 95% in the first 6 months. Lena swallowed hard. She'd never dared to imagine a number like that. For her, a stable job, fair treatment, and recognition were already luxuries. But Mr. Griffin wasn't finished. I also added a housing allowance for the first 12 months. Enough for you and your mother to live near the restaurant. No more worrying about rent or unsafe neighborhoods. Lena couldn't speak. Her eyes turned glassy. Tracy continued, voice gentle. We spoke with Michelle, your former manager at Westside. She told us how you sent half your wages to your mum, worked night shifts, and still showed up to class on time. She said she's never met anyone with your drive at your age. Lena blinked fast, trying to stop the tears. She smiled faintly, her voice shaky. Thank you. I don't know what to say. Just say yes. Mr. Griffin smiled, eyes proud. Say yes to the role you've deserved for a long time, the role of someone who sees people, who endures, who leads, and most importantly, who never loses her dignity, no matter the circumstance. Lena placed her hand over the contract. She gently ran her fingers across the words, "Manager, Downtown Branch," and nodded, slow, steady. "I accept." That sentence rang like a bell inside each of them. Mr. Griffin extended his hand, and they shook not as CEO and employee, but as two people who had chosen to believe in one another with no need for explanations. And for the record, he added softly, what happened today wasn't just an interview. It was the final test. Leadership isn't chosen by resumes or references, but by how you hold your humanity in the harshest moments. Lena smiled, for the first time in many months. That smile wasn't hiding pain, it radiated confidence. I've lived my whole life just waiting for someone to believe in me, before judging how I looked. She paused. Today, that finally happened. It was a brilliant spring afternoon. Sunlight streamed through the front windows of the Griffey's Burgers downtown branch, once dubbed the store no one wanted to manage. Now it was the busiest in the entire chain, known not just for great food, but for something rarer warmth and kindness that lived in every corner. At the center of it all, Lena Mitchell walked among the tables with quiet confidence, her new manager's uniform crisp, her name embroidered in silver thread, her ponytail neat, and her smile ever present, not a sales pitch smile, but the kind that truly listens. "Order for Garcia," she called, placing a tray at the pickup counter. A man in his 60s approached, walking stick in hand. Lena moved quickly to assist, steadying the tray and gently pulling out a chair. I remembered less salt. "Right." He smiled, eyes lit with gratitude. "This place never makes me feel like a burden." "Thank you." "Lena, I used to be the person no one noticed." Lena replied, "And I won't let anyone feel that way under my roof." And she meant it. Every action she took was a seed. The restaurant bustled with high schoolers studying in corners, construction workers ordering takeout, mums with babies on lunch break, all served with equal respect. Near the entrance, a framed quote hung neatly on the wall. "True character is how you treat someone who can do nothing for you." And beneath it, in smaller print, Lena Mitchell lived this truth before she ever wore a title. The plaque was a gift from Mr. Griffin at the reopening, a day when crowds wrapped around the block to support the girl who was once denied a cup of water, now leading the very place that tried to deny her. Lena never sought spotlight. She kept her accolades in a drawer, alongside her well-worn notebook, the same one she wrote in while waiting that day. Now, it sat beside her business degree, marked "Graduated with Honors." A young employee rushed over, holding an order ticket. "Ms. Lena, it's packed, and the interviewee from this morning just arrived." Lena wiped her hands, smoothed her shirt, and nodded. "All right, I'm coming." She glanced at the name on the schedule. In bold letters, Tyler Benson. She took a deep breath. Starting over was never easy. Forgiveness harder still. But Lena believed second chances are for those who truly want to change. The door chimed. She lifted her gaze toward the front. Tyler Benson entered. No slicked-back hair. No swagger. Just a young man in a worn white shirt. Pressed khakis, clutching a folder like it held his whole future. His eyes scanned the restaurant, then landed on the name badge. Manager, Lena Mitchell. When their eyes met, time held still. No anger, no shame. Just two people once on opposite ends of a mistake, now meeting in a space completely transformed. Lena stepped from her office, offering a soft smile. "Hi, Tyler." He nodded, voice low, nervous. "Hi, Ms. Lena. Thank you for letting me apply. You're on time. Come on in." In the bright office, Lena poured him a glass of water. No excess ice, no sarcasm, just kindness, simple and real. Tyler placed his folder on the desk. Lena didn't open it right away. She looked him in the eyes. "Before we begin, I want to ask, why did you come back?" He took a breath. "I'm not here asking for forgiveness. I'm here asking for a chance to become the person I should have been if I'd had the courage to speak up instead of going along." He paused, hands clenched. "These last 6 months, I've done warehouse shifts, washed cars, waited tables. I know what it feels like to be dismissed. And now, I finally understand what I did to you." He pulled out a handwritten letter, shaky penmanship, uneven lines, but sincere. "I wrote this for you and Mr. Griffin. I don't expect anything, just to show I'm trying, not by saying it, but by doing better." Lena read a few lines. Her chest tightened, not from pity, but because she saw something rare change. "What position are you applying for?" she asked gently. "I'll start at the bottom. Cleaning, trash, delivery. I don't need a title. I need a shot to show I can be better." Lena was quiet. She remembered how it felt that day, wiping water from her resume, being mocked for her shoes. She remembered, but she no longer clung to it as a weapon. She opened a drawer, pulled out a form. "I'll sign you on for a 3-month probation support staff. Hourly wage, weekly check-ins." Tyler opened his mouth to respond, but tears came first. He bowed his head deeply. "Thank you. I won't let you down." Lena smiled softly. "Don't prove it to me. Prove it to yourself that you're not who you were that day." He nodded, wiping his eyes. Lena stood and offered her hand. "Welcome to the team, Tyler." The handshake was brief but firm. Neither bowed lower than the other, just two people choosing to move forward. That afternoon, the restaurant remained busy, but everything ran in harmony like a well-rehearsed orchestra. Lena quietly watched it all, the customers' faces, the shine on the tables, the way employees said thank you, and how they listened. Behind the counter, Jade worked the drink station, hair tied neatly, uniform crisp, no smug glances. She helped an elderly man with his tray, guiding him to a window seat. Lena approached. handling our most particular customer." "Huh," Jade chuckled, voice lighter than it had ever been. "As long as I don't spill his soda again, we're good." "You're doing great." "Jade, truly." Jade paused, looking at Lena not as a boss, but as someone who witnessed her journey. "I've learned so much from you. Every day here is me making things right." Lena nodded. "Forgiveness isn't a destination, it's a path, and you're walking it." Just then, the door chimed again. A young woman stepped in, faded jean jacket, loose hair, clutching an old bag. Her eyes wandered, unsure where to stand. The front staff hesitated. Lena recognized that look. She walked over, gently. "Hi there. Here to apply?" The girl nodded. "Yes. I'm Carly. I saw the job sign out front. I filled out the form, but the library printer was broken, so I couldn't print my resume." Lena smiled. "That's okay. You can submit it in person. How far did you come?" "Almost 2 hours by bus," Carly said, eyes lowering, almost ashamed. Lena said nothing more. She walked to the water station, poured a glass, not too much ice, and placed it on the waiting table. "Take a seat. Have some water. When you're ready, we'll talk." Carly looked up, stunned. "Really, I didn't think I'd be treated kindly." Lena gently rested a hand on her shoulder. "I once stood exactly where you are. Believe me, kindness at the right moment can change a life." From behind the counter, Jade saw it all. Her eyes met Lena's. No words needed. Lena's subtle nod said it all. The circle had closed, and a new one had just begun. That evening, as the restaurant emptied, soft cleaning sounds came from the kitchen, peppered with quiet laughter from staff ending their shifts. Lena stood alone in the main hall, straightening chairs, picking up a forgotten napkin, then paused in front of the wooden plaque by the exit. "True character is how you treat someone who can do nothing for you." And just below Lena, Mitchell lived this truth before she ever wore a title. These weren't just words anymore. They were memory, journey, identity shaped by moments of dismissal, unseen tears, and the choice to keep being kind when it would have been easier to strike back. In a far corner, Carly was being trained by Jade, learning to wipe the counter with a clean cloth. Tyler stacked trays onto the rack, quiet but focused. None of them were the same as before. Lena knew because she wasn't either. That night, like every night, she walked home to a small apartment near the park where her mother sat reading on the sofa, healthier, glowing, prouder than ever. They'd have a late dinner together. Nothing fancy, but full of meaning. And tomorrow, Lena would return not just to manage a restaurant, but to protect a space where no one would be misjudged for how they looked, sounded, or struggled. Mr. Griffin still dropped by now and then, unannounced, but he didn't need to anymore. Lena had proven it not with speeches, but with every act, every decision, every person she gave a chance. One Saturday morning, he left an envelope on her desk. Inside was a black and white photo captured by the store's camera that day. She was bent down, wiping a spill. A child sat crying in his mother's arms. At the top corner, Mr. Griffin had written by hand, "Sometimes the people who choose."